Chers auditeurs,
dear listeners,
bonjour.
Welcome in Comdarchipodcast Season 4.
Saison 4, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci.
Thank you.
D'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
To be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Hello everyone. Hello Camille Cancard et Patrick Dandelot.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. You are architect and founders of ASPHALT Architecture. In 2 or 3 sentences, could you introduce us to your architectural practice? Patrick?
Yes, so ASPHALT is an architecture and urbanism practice based in Paris, founded in 2015 by 4 partners. For us, each project begins with a deep immersion into the context. We are deeply interested in traditional construction techniques, local materials, and virtuous construction techniques. We are now working on architectural projects, housing, offices, public buildings, but also an urban project.
Mm-hmm. So, Camille, now can you tell us about your project of Noisy near Paris? Or something else about your...
We thought it might be interesting to talk about this project that actually took place before we officially created ASPHALT. But it's kind of the beginning of everything. It started in 2014, a few months after our diploma, when one of our former professors called us back because he was in contact with a neighborhood association from Noisy-le-Grand, which is a city in the suburbs of Paris. The association was trying to fight against a 1,500 dwellings urban project that was supposed to get them evicted and take down all the existing houses. To give a little context about this area, it's at that time 30 acres lot with something like 50 houses, so a very low density, a lot of narrow properties that date back to an agricultural use of the land, big gardens, a lot of fruit trees, and a very vivid neighborhood spirit. So we can see how the area is strategic for its situation in relation to Paris, less than 1 hour away in public transportation, and considering the lack of homes around Paris. They had already been fighting for many years before when we met them. And what's interesting is that throughout the years, since they had created the association, they had actually trained themselves. They were really interested in learning the tools, the vocabulary. They had gone to conferences about architecture, about urban planning, so that they could feel more legitimate in fighting for their cause. Also because they felt like it was not only a personal matter for each of them, but they felt like the project was simply not suitable for the city itself. So we started to work with them, and it was an adventure that lasted almost 2 years. We worked on an alternative project with 2 main ideas in mind. First, to transform the project initiated by the city in order to include the remaining houses. And above all, reopen the dialogue with the residents because they felt like they had been left out. So the main purpose of this work was communication. And even though we thought the encounters would be full of anger, of opposition and resentment, actually all of the residents were very aware of the issue, that the densification was inevitable. So it was not a matter of whether or not the project should take place, but in which conditions and how they would be included in the process. So progressively, throughout our meetings and workshops, we managed to create a map among other documents, models and plans. But this map was illustrating which parts of their properties they were willing to seize other parts where they wanted to expand if possible, in which areas it was not a problem to build higher, to sum up, to find together the conditions in which the project was possible. And in a way, it became a strategic document for the city because at that time the project had been stopped for almost 10 years, and we were giving them, in a way, the tools to make it happen again. So at the end of this work, we made a presentation of the conclusions of our work and our alternative proposal to the city council and the architect and urban planner. And they actually listened to us, but I'm not sure there would have been a real impact if it wasn't for the annulment of the mayor's election that had been in charge for almost 20 years for administrative reasons. And soon the project became one of the main subjects of the campaign, and every candidate promised that they would be on the residents' side if they were elected. And actually the new mayor kept her word as she decided to start again the project, although with the same urban planning team, after her election. And we were invited to join meetings to talk about how this project could start again, also with the president of the association. And we were asked to organize public consultation workshops. So at first, the residents didn't really understand what the workshops would be for, as they had the impression that they had already made their point for the last 10 years. But actually, it turned out to be really productive and interesting, and gave us the opportunity to draft a set of rules that were included in the urban project later. The urban planning team then proceeded to work on a new version of the project that they unveiled during a public meeting, and it was actually very well received by the association and a relief for them after so many years. The new project actually included the remaining houses, but apart from that, it's really interesting to see what changes between the two versions. We can see how the project becomes less generic and it simply makes more sense in its context.
What happened next is that in 2016 we decided to create ASPHALT, and the name is partly in reference to this very urban first experience. One of the four partners, Quentin, then studied for a master's degree in urban planning. And a few years later, they divided the project into lots and started the consultations. We were really interested in having the opportunity to continue to work there, but at another scale in this neighborhood where we knew very well. We participated in 3 competitions, and our third attempt was successful. We teamed up with a developer and another architecture office, Thibault Architects. We are actually developing this 120 dwellings projects together at the moment. The construction will start next January, and we are still in touch with the residents.
Yes, amazing. Because the first project becomes a very big project.
Exactly.
Yes. Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. And see you after Christmas for our new Comdarchi in English. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Thanks to Julien Rebours, sound engineer, who is collaborating with us today. Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at comdarchipodcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.